Hello everyone, I'm Chelsea Harris and I'm the founder of Inspired Mama, and alongside that I'm also a dedicated mother to 4 very little energetic boys. Now, as both an entrepreneur and a mum, I really do intimately understand the challenges of trying to balance a thriving career and family life. Now, my journey within working with women's health actually began 2 decades ago, and I have experience working with families in schools, children with ADHD, autism, and then supporting their mothers. Now, that alongside my own motherhood journey has actually inspired me to create Inspired Mama. And since then, I've dedicated myself to becoming a health and mindset coach, a personal trainer, and a nutrition expert. And this has allowed me to offer comprehensive support for really busy mums. Now, for the last 7 years now, I've been coaching and training women worldwide and providing streamlined health solutions and personal development programs for them. Our approach at Inspired Mama is different because we address the core challenges that women face, which is managing their time effectively, handling stress, and combating fatigue when we're just juggling way too many responsibilities. So today I'm really excited to dive into a crucial topic for all of us on our health and wellness journey, and this is dealing with the number on the scales. We're going to explore in this training how certain events in our health journey can impact our mindset and also our progress, and how to navigate these challenges effectively. We're also going to talk in this session and discuss the common pitfalls of focusing too much on a specific outcome, like the number on a scale. And I'm going to share some strategies to help you shift your perspective and help you maintain motivation and see the bigger picture of your progress. We're also going to identify how disappointment can affect our journey and just learn some really practical ways to overcome those setbacks. By the end of this training, you'll have actionable steps to create a more balanced, sustainable approach to your health and wellness journey. So if you're ready to transform your relationship with the scales and boost your overall well-being, let's jump in. Today, what I want to talk about is the events that we can get hung up on when we're going through this journey and through any health journey. And I think a big thing for mums, when I first talk to you in the breakthrough calls, a really big thing that comes up whenever I ask mums about the results that they want to be and the person that they want to be, they always tell me that they want to be happy, they want to be confident, they want to feel calm, they want to have positive relationships, they want to be managing their stress better, they want to be mentally sound and managing their time better. No one ever says to me in those calls, I want to be blah, 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 as in a certain amount of kilos or a certain amount of weight. They might say, I've lost weight and as a result, I'm more confident, but that's never the primary focus in those calls. And that's not ultimately what we want deep in our heart. But then what happens is throughout the journey, whether it be the event being like getting wrapped up with the number on the scales or getting wrapped up with emotionally eating and then being disappointed with ourselves or whatever it might be, we can get wrapped up with a certain event that occurs and then that can drag us down and that level of disappointment can occur. And I think what I want to talk to you about today is dealing with that disappointment and why that disappointment comes about and how we can manage that better. And then also when that self-doubt creeps in, how we can manage that better as well, and those negative emotions and how they don't actually serve us and they make the whole journey a whole lot harder and less ineffective as a result of really focusing on those things and not broadening our understanding around why we're doing this and then getting bogged down in those small details. So know that it's really natural to feel happy when things are going our way. Obviously, we get a really good number on the scales or, we handle a social event really well and we eat really well. We feel really good about ourselves, and naturally, because those behaviors that we're displaying are aligning with the person we want to be in the long run. And so we feel that level of success. But what happens is that we often feel quite frustrated and can get really down with ourselves when they don't turn out or it's not a result that we wanted. And sometimes that's not because we're not doing the right things. Sometimes we are eating healthy and we are managing our stress well and we are exercising, we are prioritizing our time and we're doing all those things, and yet we still don't get that result or that event doesn't go as we'd planned. And what happens in that moment is we feel really disappointed. Now, disappointment in human emotions is actually a really common emotion. So first there is love that humans feel, and then they feel regret, and then disappointment is actually the third ranked emotion. So it's actually a really common emotion. And how sad that regret and disappointment are so common and such high emotions that adults feel on a frequent basis. So there's actually something known as a disappointment theory. And what happens is we experience disappointment when a situation has uncertain outcomes and end up producing a result that is worse than we had expected. So we have an idea or we have a goal that we want to achieve, and then obviously that goal doesn't occur or doesn't come to fruition, and then we feel a huge amount of disappointment. And you'll notice that there are 5 elements to this disappointment theory, and the 3 that are in pink are the ones that apply to us. So this is a situation when the outcome was uncertain. Now, we know if we manage our stress well, we exercise well, and we eat healthy, that we will lose weight. And the reason why I say manage our stress well as the first factor in that whole equation is because when we're managing our stress well, our mental health is in a really good space. So there are 5 elements to the disappointment theory. So there's a situation when the outcome is uncertain. Now, given that if we manage our stress well, we eat healthy, and we exercise, we know that we will lose weight and we'll get down to an ultimate, ideal health or ideal weight. Now, the reason why I put managing our stress there as the first and most important component, because when we manage our stress well, our mind is in a sound place. And our mindset is the biggest contributing factor to your success. If your mind is not in a sound place, you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're stressed about what's going on in your environment, feeling disappointed within yourself, all those sorts of things, the concept of eating healthy and exercising starts to fall apart. It just doesn't happen because we don't have the mindset or the motivation to sustain it. So it's not that the outcome is going to be uncertain. We just know that what we need to do in order for it to be successful. But whether we are able to put those things in place or not is what can change. And that's why we don't want things like a week where we get on the scales and we don't get the outcome that we want to derail us for the following week. Because then what happens is it flows from week to week and can derail us for a lot longer period of time than is necessary. Now, disappointment can also occur when we expect a positive outcome. So we're pretty certain that we've tried to, eat within the principles, enough, and we have done a little bit of exercise. And so we expect to have a positive outcome, but we forgot to look at those downfalls that we might have had, like the small times that we've eaten off our children's plates, or we're not monitoring our food, or we're just kind of over consuming in calories, or whatever it might be. Those small things that we kind of let slide all too often, and then that outcome doesn't come about. There's that point where we can feel disappointed when we feel that we deserve that positive outcome. So you've done a little bit of exercise, you've done a little bit of positive eating, healthy eating, and you just expect that outcome to come. Or maybe you think just because you paid the money and you've committed to doing food prep once this month, then surely the outcome is going to come about. And so that's, really gauging, are you actually putting in the energy to be getting those outcomes? And then there's those times when we are genuinely doing all the work and we're doing all the right things and we are tracking well against our 4 eyes tracker. And then what happens is we don't get that outcome, and that leaves us feeling really disappointed. And that's the problem when we think that our entire success and our achievement is completely linked to that event. So what I've found with a lot of the mums that I work with is that this level of disappointment that I experience actually breeds a lot of pessimism. And so this occurs when people have a low disappointment tolerance. So they feel disappointed with themselves. This occurs and then they feel really crappy about themselves. And then that negative internal dialogue creeps in. They feel really let down by what's occurred. And then what happens is they're like, oh, well, I failed and I expect to fail in the future. And that negative internal dialogue and that self-doubt takes over. And then what they start to do is they start to look around their world for data of why this is not going to work. And then as a result of that, this pattern of responses occurs where they look for more reasons about why they're going to fail. And then as a result, they then suffer further disappointment. So what I've written in there is, what's more, the pattern of responses they often show suggests that they also tend to make their decisions impulsively, particularly after suffering a setback. So those that are least tolerant of disappointment needed only a small disappointment to bias their subsequent decisions and ultimately then suffer further disappointment. So what happens is they have a bad result on the scales, or they emotionally eat out at an event. They feel really poor about themselves and the fact that that has happened. And then they use that as an excuse or as a starting point, I suppose, to allow themselves to propel into this, I'm going to eat negatively and I'm not going to exercise. This is all falling apart. It's not working for me. And so they expect more disappointment. And so that then perpetuates into a larger event than it needs to be, rather than looking at it objectively and being like, actually, I've improved immensely through this journey, and the actions that I put in place. I've already grown so much so far. That is a very minor detail in, the amount of action that I'm putting in, and the effort and the energy that I'm putting in to get these results, which is far more important to be focusing on the outcomes that you're getting as a result of that, rather than just that one indicator, which our success and our self-worth should not be linked to at all. But unfortunately, it is linked to it, because people get wrapped up with the scales, particularly. So women on this journey come in and they want to focus on being happy and being mentally sound and managing their stress well, and yet they get into the program, and often first they get so wrapped up in the scales and the measurements. And so as a result, they place a whole heap of stress, frustration, anxiety, and disappointment around these events in their health and fitness journey. And as I said, these events that I'm talking about are things like jumping on the scales, handling nutritional challenges with confidence. So when they go out, if they are able to stick within the principles, if they overeat, those sorts of things, people can get really down on themselves with that. They can see binge eating or emotional eating as major setbacks. And women particularly, also get very focused on their dress sizes and dropping sizes as such. So what I want you to do now is, if you can please go to the Infinite Potential post in the Facebook group, and I want you to write, what events mentally consume you? So what is it that is occurring that throughout this journey is going to consume you? Something that that you are focusing probably far too much energy on, and that is going to cause you disappointment. And what could you do differently to attack that? Like, there's too much energy going into that one event. Can you just write me what that event is and how you respond to that disappointment after that event has occurred? So I'm going to talk about it as people focusing on the scales, because this is the major one that people get really wrapped up on. So why is this a problem? So first of all, the problem is that we believe that we're supposed to arrive at a final destination that we've been working towards. And so if we feel that we've been eating healthy and we've been exercising, then the number doesn't go down as much as we want it to on the scales, we feel that we're a failure in that area of our life. This sense of disappointment, makes us then, generally women, want to comfort eat. And then as a result of that, because they feel like a failure in that life, they don't feel encouraged to want to continue on the journey. And that can derail them for anywhere up to 3 to 5 days, which is like another week wasted, ultimately, isn't it? So the problem is that when they get into this state of where they're focusing so much on these scales or on this result of what they want, their expectations can become very suffocating. Self-doubt starts to creep in, and they begin to question why they're even bothering, and they can't even remember why they began on the path in the first place, because as far as they're concerned, they were always going to fail. And that is with the women that are coming in and working in Inspired Mama Acceleration. It is a group of women who have tried 100 different diets, feel like they can't find anything that fits them, and then is ultimately looking for data in their world that's going to support this belief system, because it's a belief system that they've had their whole life. And so they're looking around going, why, like, I have to fail this. Surely I have to fail this, because they believe that they've failed everything in the past. And so this just adds to that belief system of, I'm not good enough and I can't make this work. And then the problem is that belief system can take over, and it can completely derail any efforts from there forward. So how do you overcome these feelings of failure and disappointment after this event? How can we keep that in perspective and make sure that it doesn't take over? Well, the first thing we do is we need to flip our script on this whole process. We need to remember why it was that you joined, what you're committed to, who it is that you're doing this for. And I know a lot of the mums in this program are doing it for their kids. They're doing it for themselves to feel better. And as I spoke, like, to be happier, healthier individuals overall. And if you are looking after your mental and your physical health and feeling that you are prioritizing yourself and you are exercising and you are eating healthier and you are managing your stress better, the weight will automatically come off. It's not like it's a 1 in a million lottery. and only 100 lucky people in a lifetime win it. Every single person that does all those things, manages stress well, exercises and eats healthy, will lose weight and get down to an optimal weight. So you have to focus on what you're doing to progress in this journey, rather than focusing on and thinking that that is what your level of success is determined by. So instead of your emphasis being solely on succeeding at the event, so solely on succeeding only at losing weight, or solely succeeding on never binge eating again, or never emotionally eating again, or managing stress triggers really well from here forward, you actually have to be focusing on what you're doing in the lead up to an event. So what habits and behaviors are you displaying on a daily basis that are making that event successful, they're going to make that event more successful? And also, how are you growing as a result of putting all these things in place? How much better off are you as a result of actually dedicating time to yourself and changing? So I want you to focus on what you're doing on an hourly, daily, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly basis to make your goals become a reality. Because what you'll realize is that you've grown so much and you've changed so much and you've developed so much as a result of putting these things in place, and you're in a much better mental space. But if you get solely bogged down in what you feel that determines your self-worth, whether it be the number on the scales or your ability to stop emotional eating, you're going to continue to think that you're failing. And the problem is that lack of self-belief, that belief system, will hold you exactly where you are, because that means that your self-concept isn't changing. So the other thing we need to focus on is, what are we not doing on a consistent basis that's delaying us from achieving our goals? And that's why I get you to track in the 4 Eyes tracker every day, because very clearly you can see as a holistic view of your whole health, from exercise, nutrition, mental health, connections in your relationships, investing time in yourself, entering a stress-free zone, all those sorts of things. If you're doing those things collectively, you'll know that you're going to get the results. But sometimes our perception of how much we're doing can be quite warped, because we're looking at what our intentions are rather than what we're actually achieving. And so it's really important that if we track it on a daily basis, we can see where those gaps are, and then we can identify them, and then we can tackle those. And then our cup will feel full because we're getting all the puzzles of the piece together. And then as a result of that, the results will come. It's inevitable that they'll come. The good thing about doing the 4 Eyes tracker as well is that it gives you a holistic view of how much you are doing to make this work. So when your event comes around, and then you don't find this completely overbearing and your expectations aren't as lofty, and you can actually begin to enjoy the fact that when the event comes around, this is all your progress. You're making progress towards things. You can see where your gaps are. You're starting to do some goal setting around it. And then as a result, you know that you're making progress towards being that person that you dreamed of, or that we spoke about, the person that you ultimately want to be, that happier, healthier individual, which is what every single one of you wanted when you came into the program. So what I want you to ultimately do is see the event as a celebration of what you've accomplished. Look at the progress that you've made. Look at the transformation that you've had to go through to get to this moment in your journey. And if the event is not to your liking and there's an outcome that you get that makes you feel disappointed, then know that at that point, there's nothing that you can do about it. It's far too late to be disappointed because you didn't get the number on the scales, or you didn't handle that emotional eating event well. There's no point in allowing that disappointment to then propel into the further days and set you back further on your journey. You're better off looking at it objectively and being like, okay, what didn't I do well? What can I learn from that? And what can I do differently in the future? And if you continue to treat it like an experiment and put in proactive measures to change that in the future, you're going to continue to move forward. You know you're going to get better and better. It's like 100% success rate that you're going to continue to improve and get better if you reflect on it. But if you dwell on it and you stay in that state of disappointment, there's no growth there. You're not learning from it. It's just an event that has occurred, and then there's really there is no purpose to that possible learning experience. So you need to make sure that you're learning from it, reflecting on it, and then putting measures in place so that you can be more successful the next time you tackle it. So I've written here, it's unfair on yourself to be upset with the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do. So don't be disappointed in that moment, reflect on it and learn from it. Spend less time focusing on the event. Instead, begin to focus on every choice and decision that you make leading up to your event. So on the infinite potential post with Inspired Mama, can you please write, what decisions and choices do you need to focus on more in the lead up to your event? Rather than looking at these events as conclusions, look at them as stepping stones. They are measurements of your progress, and think, what did I learn from it and what am I going to do differently? Too many mums get hung up or get put off because the result wasn't perfect. And what you should be doing is focusing on your progress and then continuing on from there. So as our final thought, what I want you to write down is, what progress have you made up until this point that you should be celebrating? What is it that you need to focus on more from day to day to make you feel and make you acknowledge the success that you're having in this space, rather than focusing on at the event that you feel that may not be giving you the result that you want? What areas of growth do you need to focus on so that you feel that you're accomplishing the things that you're after, and then feeling as though you're making progress, which is the most important thing of all. Thank you so much for joining me in this session on dealing with the scales and just learning to manage disappointment within your health journey. I really hope you found these insights valuable and that you're feeling empowered to approach your wellness goals with a totally fresh perspective. Now, if you'd like to access more of my free trainings, I encourage you to head over to inspiredmama.com. There you're going to find a variety of resources which are designed to help you manage your stress, improve your relationship with food, and just boost your overall well-being. If you want to stay connected with daily tips and inspiration, you can also follow me on social media. You'll find me on Instagram at Chels_InspiredMama, on YouTube at Inspired Mama, or even on Facebook at Inspired Mama Chels. Now, if you're looking for ongoing support to implement what you've learned today and beyond, I invite you to join our Inspired Mama support group on Facebook. It's a wonderful community where my team and I provide guidance and encouragement to busy mums just like you on your journey as you can create a healthier and more balanced life. Just remember, ladies, that progress isn't always about being perfect. It's actually about implementing strategies that you can sustain for the next 40 years. And if you are able to make small changes to how you approach your health, you'll be able to transform your wellness over a period of time. Thank you for your time and attention today. And here's to us all focusing on overall progress and living our most inspired and healthy life.